Today I want to talk to you about my 562 XP having some trouble with running poorly. The chain is turning at idle, and if you stop in the cut, it'll immediately shut off. Alright, so I'm going to demonstrate the hard starting. So I'm just going up into choke, priming the saw. 2 or 3 pulls, always, you know. First of all, it's hard to pull. That's the first thing I noticed. It's actually harder to pull a cord. Alright, it chugged. It starts and then stops. I just unlocked the chain brake. Now I'm going to start the process over. Okay, it chugged. Alright, so I'm having trouble getting this thing to even start now. This is an Autotune saw. It knows when the chain is turning. I don't know how it knows, but it does, and so it doesn't turn the chain. It'll idle to the correct amount for the RPMs that will not, those RPMs will not engage the clutch, okay? So I took a look at this air filter. I cleaned out the filter with my knife. I just cleaned these out like that. That was my first thing. It didn't work. The saw already had a new spark plug on it. I made sure that that was pushed on all the way. Didn't solve the problem. Wanted to see if there was anything stopping it from turning. Okay, well, there was. One of these springs was broken. They gave you the wrong spring. So I think you can probably see here that these springs are of a different length. So my wife went to the store for me and picked up my spring. I figured, how wrong could it be? And they had one of these, and it was different. It was a different length. It was a different shape. It has a different number of coils on it. And I thought, this can't possibly be right. So I went in, and they were supposed to order me a clutch, and the clutch that came in looked exactly like this one. The only difference, the only difference on this clutch was that it had the different springs on it. So I'm just going to swap out all the springs. One of the springs broke off right at the hook at the end, and so it wasn't able to stay installed. See this little gear right here? That's the oil pump. That gets turned by this plastic thread right here. Okay, couple things to know. Removal of the clutch. I don't know if you guys can see this, but there's the word off right here on the clutch on this outer rim. And there's even a little tab. There's one there, there's one there, and there's one there that's strikeable while you know, it's installed. And so you just take a hammer and you just hit it with a hammer, and a couple times the engine will turn with the clutch. So if you're trying to unscrew this, it will not unscrew unless you strike it. But what you do is you just line up your punch right there, and you strike it with a hammer, and it will spin right off. See, like such. But it does require some pretty vigorous taps with a hammer to come off. And I don't need to drive it on because it'll tighten itself on through use. Checking for a burr. There is a slight burr. What you want is to push the burr in towards the bar and not out from the bar, because then you'll just push the burr up and it'll stick up sort of that way. You're also checking the top of this rail to feel if it has like a knife edge, like a figure skate with a knife on each side. This should be very smooth. You should be able to stand it up on a flat. This table's not flat, but you should be able to stand this up on a flat surface. See, this table's not level, but see, this way it's level and it doesn't fall. But that should be true along the length of the bar. Sometimes one side of the bar will wear a bigger burr than the other, and it'll stick up far on one side and actually cause the whole thing to cut over that way. Sprocket first, then chain on the bar. Pull it. Look into the cover. The saw was running the chain all the time at idle, so you know that's normally a tuning problem on a normal carbureted saw. Because the chain was always turning, I suspected the clutch, because the X-Torque technology runs the carburetor at the perfect tune all the time. It adjusts it on the fly, and so there was nothing other than the computer or the clutch to be wrong, and I'm not going to expect it to be the computer. That's an assumption, right? I can inspect the clutch. The computer has to be plugged in. So I looked at my clutch and I saw that the spring had one of those ears, or one of the end sort of hooks broken off of it, and that was basically causing the clutch to engage. There's no resistance to make keep the clutch from connecting with the engine when I was trying to start it, so it made it extremely hard to pull. And then when it was running, even at idle, because there was no spring in that one side, it was opening and connecting the engine to the chain no matter what engine speed I was at. And so that clutch is meant to, at a certain RPM, that clutch begins to do this. And so it was doing it at too low of an RPM, which indicated that the spring was broken. Someone has since told me that it's common for the Husqvarna chainsaws to have broken springs on the clutches, but I did see that the upgraded spring had a slightly thinner material to it. It was stretched more. I'm not sure what the deal is with that. Maybe they just had a different material, different design. I have no idea. I don't know. But I know the thicker, older spring design broke, and then it's replaced with a newer design. So the shop that ordered my clutch for me, because I thought I was going to have to replace it with a whole clutch, because they said it was superseded with a new clutch. But the clutch that came in today was exactly the same as my clutch, excepting for the springs were different. So I just convinced them to sell me their springs, because they said they would order the springs and they could get them. And so I said, all right, well, can you order the springs for yourself and sell me these ones? So they did, but I didn't want to just have one, because even though I only broke one spring, I wanted all of them to be the same, because I don't have any way of knowing if they're the same pull force, and they're not the same age either. That's another thing too. Like, if the springs were identical, I would have replaced it with an identical spring. But not only were they not identical, but they also were of different, mine other two were used, and then the new one was going to go on. It was going to throw the whole system off balance. That's what I thought. So I just replaced all three, but you saw me put it on there with a pick. It was very easy to do. I thought having a 90-degree pick was the best way. It definitely, like a scratch awl would have worked just as well. Something with a really, a point, not something too big. So that's basically the diagnostic process and everything. Obviously it wasn't that complicated, but I had to go out of my way to get the parts. So if that's your problem that you're having, look at your clutch springs, see if they're good. It's really easy to inspect that on a Husqvarna chainsaw. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I need you guys to subscribe. If I can get 1,000 subscribers, I can start doing better videos. So I just don't have any money coming into me from YouTube right now, so we'll get there. But good luck out there with your chainsaws.